Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Before we get to the charts here, I do want to invite you to join me for the PivotBoss monthly market outlook tomorrow, Thursday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. Central. We'll discuss the current state of the market. We'll analyze the charts for the futures, crypto, and also stocks, and we'll also look for prospects for the last month of Q2. Please join me tomorrow using the Zoom webinar linked in the description below. This is a free and open event to anyone who wants to attend. So looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central, June 2nd for our monthly market outlook. All right, here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame right here. One thing we'll discuss here in the monthly outlook is the lower value relationships that we've developed here for the new month, but with a bullish bias. That means there's a change of bias here in where the price closed the month, in that it's higher than the lower value relationship. When that's the case, the first pullback into the pivot range can be an opportunity for bulls to defend as support and look to push higher to the previous month's high. That means that the fact that we've jumped above that 4100 level, the fact that we're back above 4000, any pullback into that zone could provide a cushion of support for a push up to 4300, which is the next area of resistance above. And again, if we were to do that, we could see price trade within 4100 to 4300 before the next key move. So right now, again, any pullback could be defended into the previous month's midpoint, or perhaps even a bit lower into 4,000 here. So we'll be looking to see how the market responds on early weakness this month and this week here. For right now, we have a very narrow range that's developed overnight, inside day. For the first 3 days of the week, including Monday's holiday session, we have a very narrow range in general, and that is building some energy here at the moment. A failure to hold the 4100 level could open up a return back toward the previous week's midpoint, being the 4020 level. So again, if we fail to hold 4100 here, we could be looking not only at a drop at the previous month's midpoint, but a little bit lower into 4020, maybe 44,000 even, and that could provide again an opportunity for bulls to defend. But you need to be able to see a strong rejection in that zone. We're looking for something very strong reaction in that area, similar to what we've seen on the left side here. If not, we could be looking at another rotation downward. Right now, the key level to get above would be that 4210 zone. That is the bottom of the key range here that is developed earlier this year. You had that significant sell-off, that impulsive move down gave us that low, and right now we're sitting just below that low. If price can overcome that low and make it support here, we could theoretically rally back to the midpoint of that key range and perhaps even attempt to go all the way to the top of the key range over time. But right now, first things first, got to see how the market responds on an early pullback from the current levels. If we take a look here at the NQ, similar price action here, only this one right now dealing with the previous year's low right here. That's a very important level. For price to get back above that level, that is a good sign of strength. You see a lower value relationship here as well. That's your pivot range for last month. This is your pivot range for this month, and it closed above the current month's pivot range, but that's also right near the middle of the range for the month. So not as good as a support level as what we're seeing in the ES, but the NQ has also lagged the ES and the YM in its upward movement. So again, if we were to pull back, perhaps the 12.2 level could be in play. The previous week's midpoint is 12.147s. So we could drop a little bit lower into that zone, and any pullback into that area, you'd like to see some sort of significant rejection day. If so, we could be looking at a surprising bounce back up, perhaps back toward 13K, maybe back toward the previous month's high of 13,500 plus. So again, this early pullback this month will be very, very important. Can it form some sort of significant rejection day? and make a move higher. If not, failing to hold that previous year's low could lead to more trading range action here between 11.5 and the 12.7 level. Taking a look at crude oil. Crude oil, after a big time breakout and rally early in the day, pre-market trading, we saw a significant rejection at the 120 level right after the RTH open. Price eventually fell all the way back to the 114s and closed around 115. That's a significant rejection. Huge rejection day of prices above the 115, 116 zone. And again, whenever you reject prices above that zone, there is a tendency to pull back and pull back into the range below, perhaps back to the FOMC key level of 107.85s. So the level to watch here, 116.50 to about 117. 117 is yesterday's midpoint. 116.50 a key level there as well. Price trading right in that zone as we speak. And again, any rejection of prices in this area could provide a retest entry for a drop back into the pivot range below. Any pullback again could be seen as an opportunity for bulls to defend and try for another round of strength back perhaps through the 120 level. To close above this 117 today would be significant and would suggest a continuation higher into the 125s and maybe as high as 130 down the road. So again, this midpoint is going to be very important early in the day. Bears want to keep it offered, again with downside targets in the 112 zone and the 107.85s over the next several days. Taking a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a big day up the previous session, up about 10%. Again, not ready to call this a major breakout from this narrow range, but it was a very, very important day for Bitcoin. Again, this is a must-hold territory for this chart here, where you have that major support at 28K right there that is held for quite some time. Each of these other times it looked as though it was about to break, and each time it got some big day to rally off that level. And yesterday was that day, staving off a major collapse in price. And again, what you'd like to see is a further push through that 32K level and through the previous month's midpoint. If you can get through that previous month's midpoint at around 32,700 or so, let's see, 32,760, that could open up a move back toward the 37.5, 38 zone. And that is the next untraded zone in there, where it just kind of fell through and held at these lows. So again, can we stitch together two back-to-back days of strength, or do we kind of continue to trade in this range? So this is a big day here that passed yesterday. Can we hold on to that strength and push the envelope to the upside? That would be an open door to about 38K up ahead. If we take a look at ETH, this one was up about 12% in the previous session at one point here. Again, double bottom off the 1700 level. We've talked about how strong that 1700 level has been over the last year and a half. Holding that zone again would suggest a bounce back up. If it can get above 2200 here, 2200 is a big time level. There is 400 points of room to run from 2200 up to 2600, and that would trade us back into this ill-traded zone right here. Again, still a long way away from getting back to that zone, but again, based off of how strong that move was, perhaps we may be looking at least a test back toward 2200 early in the month. If not, this bearish Pima trigger zone could come into play, and we could be looking at another major test at 1700 ahead. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Remember, we will be doing our monthly market outlook tomorrow, June 2nd at 4 p.m. Central. This is free and open to everyone, and I'd like to see you there. All right, everyone, take care, and I'll see you in the trading room.